Jack Miller had spent weeks training with the Navy SEAL Reserves, pushing his body and mind to their limits. So when he finally began the drive home that late summer evening, everything felt almost unnaturally calm. The sky over Willow Creek glowed with that soft golden light that only happens just before dusk. The windows of his truck were rolled halfway down, letting in a breeze that carried the scent of fresh-cut grass and distant rain. On the passenger seat sat a small velvet box with a silver bracelet inside, simple, elegant, exactly the kind of thing his wife Anna loved. He planned to give it to her the moment he stepped through the door, maybe while she was tending to her flowers on the porch, as a quiet apology for all the weeks he'd been gone. As he turned onto their street, everything looked exactly as it should. Kids were tossing a football near the cul-de-sac, the cicadas had started their nightly chorus, and a lawnmower somewhere nearby clicked off, leaving the air thick with that familiar summer hum. But then he saw it. Parked beneath the broad shade of a sycamore at the far end of the road was a matte gray SUV. Its windows were tinted black, and it sat just a little too far from the curb. There were no license plates, no logos, nothing to indicate it belonged. Jack slowed down instinctively. It could have been a contractor, sure, but years of combat experience whispered something else. That vehicle didn't belong here. He pushed the thought aside. He just wanted to be home. While Jack was still a few minutes away, Anna was outside on the porch barefoot, watering her flower beds. She was humming softly to herself when the house phone rang. The screen showed a local number, so she hit speaker and kept working. A man's voice came through, calm, clipped, almost mechanical. He claimed to be from the Willow Creek HOA Enforcement Division. He told her their property had a structural code violation and that a temporary asset hold would begin within 24 hours. He instructed her to remain at home for an on-site evaluation. Anna frowned. Their HOA didn't even have an enforcement division, and no one made official calls at dusk. She asked for his name and employee ID so she could verify with the board. The man paused for half a second, then his tone shifted just slightly, colder. "Compliance is mandatory, Mrs. Miller. Have your documents ready." Then the line went dead. Something about that voice stuck with her. It wasn't threatening in the usual sense. It was too polite. It felt like talking to a machine that suddenly decided it wanted control. The breeze shifted, carrying a faint whiff of motor oil, sharp like the scent from a boatyard. Moments later, the same gray SUV Jack had noticed appeared at the end of the street. It eased to a stop beneath the sycamore tree, lingered, then rolled back slightly as if trying to blend into the shadows. Anna's pulse quickened. She considered calling Jack, but decided to wait. She locked the door, stepped inside, and stood quietly behind the curtains watching. The SUV door opened and two men stepped out. One was tall and broad with a shaved head that reflected the porch light. The other was weary, restless, tapping a metal clipboard against his thigh. They wore black vests with HOA enforcement printed on the back in cheap cracked letters. They walked up to the door and rang the bell. Anna cracked it open but left the chain on. The tall one gave her a smooth smile and claimed they just needed to finish an inspection. She told him firmly to come back during office hours and that she'd already called the HOA board. His smile faded a little. He held up a laminated document that looked official, but Anna noticed the seal was printed ink, not embossed. She started to close the door, but the weary man slammed his shoulder into it. The chain snapped out in a rush of movement. The tall man grabbed her wrist and forced the door wide. Her sandal slipped on the wet wood of the porch. The weary man dumped her purse on the ground, searching for keys. The silver bracelet Jack had bought fell into the mud beside the steps. They twisted her arm behind her back and dragged her toward the SUV. She struggled, but their calm, bureaucratic tone made everything worse. They kept talking like officials following a script. Even as they forced her forward, Jack turned onto their street just as rain began to fall. His headlights cut through the mist and landed on his porch. Anna was there, barefoot, one sandal hanging off her foot, a man's hand twisted in her hair. For a moment, The world went silent. His heartbeat slowed. His breathing leveled out. Combat mode clicked in. He cut the engine, stepped into the rain, and moved like a shadow toward the house. His hand slipped under his jacket to the Glock at his side. Anna spotted him through the drizzle and held his gaze for a split second, enough for him to see both fear and defiance in her eyes. His voice came low and sharp through the rain. "Step away from her." The weary man froze. The tall man turned with a grin. "Look who decided to show up," he said. "You're a little late, hero." Jack's stance didn't waver. "Let her go." 3 seconds. The tall man's free hand twitched toward his belt. Jack saw the folding knife clip there. He didn't wait. One clean shot. The Glock bucked once. The bullet tore into the man's arm, forcing him back. Anna broke free, stumbling against the porch railing. The weary man lunged, but Jack met him halfway, driving a kick into his knee with a sharp crack. He collapsed, gasping. The driver threw the SUV into reverse, tires spinning on wet gravel. Jack pivoted, aimed low, and shot out the rear tire. The vehicle slewed sideways, blocking the driveway. For a heartbeat, the only sounds were the rain and distant thunder. Then sirens wailed, growing louder. Neighbors had called the police. When the cruisers arrived, Detective Mark Carter, a longtime friend of Jack's from their military days, stepped onto the porch. His officers cuffed the suspects. Carter recognized the tall man immediately. Vince Rowe, a known con artist wanted for impersonating officials and running property scams. Inside the SUV, they found forged documents, zip ties, a dart gun, a USB drive, and a list of targeted homes. It was never about code violations. It was a real estate fraud operation, scaring homeowners into compliance, kidnapping them if necessary, and forcing property transfers to shell companies. Anna's memory of the engine oil smell and the word Harbor Run later led police to a stash of forged documents hidden in a boatyard 2 counties away. The entire network unraveled from there. Jack faced trial for discharging his weapon, but footage from a neighbor's security camera showed everything clearly: the attack, his warnings, the precise disabling shot. Anna testified calmly, pointing out every detail, from the fake documents to the smell of boat oil. The verdict was swift: no charges. Jack had acted lawfully to defend his wife on their property. Life after that night changed in subtle ways. Jack replaced the fence, upgraded their security system, and oiled the Glock regularly, not out of fear but habit, and attended her flowers again, holding her head a little higher. On quiet evenings, they'd sit together on the porch under the warm glow of the light, holding hands in silence. They both knew how fragile peace could be, how fast calm could turn, and they never forgot the truth of that night. 30 seconds had made all the difference.